Hello everyone, and welcome once again to my channel. Today we'll be looking at the types of fractions. Types of fractions. It's going to be a very interesting video, so let's get to it. Now, although there are many types of fractions, the three main types of fractions that can be differentiated on the basis of their numerator and denominator are the proper fractions, the improper fractions, and the mixed fractions. Yeah, we have a lot of fractions as we'll see in the video, but we have three main fractions that can be differentiated on the basis of their numerator and denominator. And if you don't know what the denominator or numerator is, you can go to my previous video on this series and you have more clarity on that. So let's go to these three main types of fractions. The first one is the proper fraction. What is a proper fraction? Now, a proper fraction is a fraction whose numerator is less than its denominator. A proper fraction is a fraction whose numerator is less than its denominator. We have so many of them, but let's look at just a few. Here we have 3 over 12 and 2 over 5. So have 1 over 3 and 4 over 6. Now in all of these fractions, you can see that the numerators are smaller or less than their denominators. 3 is less than 12, 2 is less than 5, 1 is less than 3, 4 is less than 6. And because their numerators are less than their denominators, they are known as proper fractions. Going to the next type of fraction, we have what we call the improper fractions. And improper fractions are just the reverse of the proper fractions. And what are they? Improper fractions are fractions whose numerator are greater than their denominators. In proper fractions, the numerator is less than the denominator, but in improper fractions, it is the reverse. The numerators are greater than their denominator. We have more examples. 5 over 2. We have 8 over 7. You can borrow from any of these and say 6 over 4 or 12 over 3. You can see in this particular examples that the numerators are larger or greater than their denominators, and that's what makes them to be improper fractions. Now we're going to the next type of fraction, which is called the mixed fractions. What are mixed fractions? It says a mixed fraction is a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. It says a mixed fraction is a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. So we have examples of that. We have 1, 3 over 4. We have 3, 1 over 2. We have 5, 4 over 7, and so on and so forth. You can see here that in this particular fraction, we have a whole number here. 1 is a whole number, while 3 over 4 is a proper fraction. It's a proper fraction because of its numerator is less than its denominator, and the same applies to this other one, 3, 1 over 2. 3 is a whole number, while 1 over 2 is a proper fraction. And in the next one, we have 5 as a whole number and 4 over 7 as a proper fraction. So they are called mixed fractions because they have a whole number and also a proper fraction. I hope that is clear. Now let's look at other types of fractions. Now, these types of fractions are classified in groups, which means they help in comparing of fractions. Like in the three main types of fractions, they are defined based on their differences in their numerators and their denominators. But in other types of fractions, they are classified in groups and they help us in comparing fractions. So this other type of fractions has to do with comparing of fractions. So let's go to the very first one here, which is called like fractions. And it says that for a like fraction, if the denominators of two or more fractions are the same, then they are called like fractions. For example, let's have a 1 over 5, 2 over 5, 3 over 5, 4 over 5. We can see a certain similarity in each of these fractions. 1 over 5, 2 over 5, 3 over 5, 4 over 5, in that they all have 5 as their denominators. And because they have the same denominators, they are referred to as like fractions. So any fraction that has the same value as its denominator is referred to as a like fraction. And we'll see applications of like fractions in coming videos. Now, the next one is unlike fractions, and from its name, it is the complete opposite of a like fraction. So, unlike fractions. Now, if the denominator of two or more fractions are different, then the fractions are termed as unlike fractions. So it's just the reverse of what we have here. So if the denominators of fractions are different, like in this case, we will have things like 1 over 2, 1 over 3, we have 2 over 5, we have 3 over 6. As you can see, all denominators of these examples are different. Don't have any similarities in any of them. They're all different values. We have 2, we have 3, we have 5, we have 6 as the denominators, so they are all different. And since they all have different denominators, they are termed unlike fractions. Now let's go to the last and final other type of fractions, which is called the equivalent fractions. I want us to pay attention to this one. Now, what is an equivalent fraction? Equivalent fractions are fractions that have different numerators and denominators but are equal to the same value when they are simplified or reduced. I think this is better explained with an example. Now, we have something like this, which is 2 over 4. We also have 3 over 6. We have 4 over 8. And let's put 5 over 10. Now, at first look, you can see that each of these fractions have different numerators and they have different denominators. But if or when they are simplified, you will find out that each of them will give you a value that is equal to 1 over 2. 2 over 4, 3 over 6, 4 over 8, 5 over 10. When simplified, will give you a value that is equal to 1 over 2. And how do we simplify them? We simplify each of them by dividing both the numerator and the denominator by their highest common factor. So in the first one, let's start with this first one, 2 over 4. If I'm to simplify this, I'm going to divide each of them with their highest common factor, which will now be 2. And that will now equal 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. It gives me a value of 1 over 2. If I do the same thing for 3 over 6, highest common factor will be 3. Divide 3 by 3, divide 6 by 3 to give you 1 over 2. And if I can repeat that for 4 by 8, I say 4 is the highest common factor here. 4 divided by 4 will give you 1. 4 divided by 8 will give you 2. Then for the next one, it will be 5. Divide 5, 1, 5, divide 10, 2. So each of these fractions here, once simplified or reduced to the lowest term, will give us a value of 1 over 2. And that is why they are referred to as equivalent fractions. They have different values for their numerators and their denominators, but once they are simplified, they will give you the same value. I hope you understand that. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. In my next video, I'll be showing you how to convert improper fractions to mixed fractions and vice versa. So don't miss it. I'll see you then.